What if I told you that the most powerful empire in human history collapsed not because of barbarian invasions, not because of military defeat, but because of a financial mistake so catastrophic it would be worth over $1 trillion in today's economy? This is the story of Rome's economic suicide, a tale of greed, mismanagement, and the slow, agonizing death of the world's greatest superpower. The year is 117 CE. The Roman Empire stretches across 2.5 million square miles, from the rainy hills of Britain to the scorching deserts of Egypt, from the Atlantic coast of Spain to the banks of the Euphrates River. Over 50 million people live under Roman rule, speaking dozens of languages, worshipping hundreds of gods, yet all united under one economic system, one currency, one dream of eternal prosperity. Rome isn't just an empire, it's the beating heart of global trade, the Silicon Valley and Wall Street of the ancient world combined. Walk through the streets of Rome in its golden age, and you'll see wealth beyond imagination. Merchant ships from Alexandria unload Egyptian grain at the port of Ostia. Silk from distant China changes hands in bustling markets. Spanish silver, African ivory, and Arabian spices flow through the city like rivers of gold. The Forum hums with the voices of bankers, traders, and tax collectors. Money moves, deals are struck, fortunes are made. This is the dream, the illusion of invincibility that every Roman citizen believes will last forever. But let me introduce you to someone who lived through what came next. His name was Marcus Antonius Rufus, though everyone called him Marcus. He wasn't a senator or a general, he was a baker. Third generation, running a small shop near the Suburra district in Rome. His grandfather had built the business with honest work and smart savings. By 150 CE, Marcus had a comfortable life, a small house, a wife, 2 children, and a leather pouch that held 30 silver denarii, his life savings, the money that would secure his children's future, pay for his daughter's dowry, maybe even buy a small piece of farmland outside the city. Marcus didn't know it yet, but those 30 coins in his pouch were about to become worthless. Not tomorrow, not in a dramatic crash, but slowly, coin by coin, year by year, as the empire he trusted began to devour itself from within. Let's talk about Roman money, because this is where the nightmare begins. In 211 BCE, Rome introduced the denarius, a silver coin that would become the backbone of Mediterranean trade for centuries. When it was first minted, the denarius contained 4.5 grams of almost pure silver, about 95% purity. It was real money, backed by real metal, trusted from Britannia to Judea. A Roman soldier earned 225 denarii per year. A loaf of bread cost half a denarius. A donkey sold for 500. The system worked because people believed in it, because the silver was real, because Rome kept its promises. But empires are expensive, brutally, impossibly expensive. Rome maintained 30 legions at its peak, roughly 165,000 professional soldiers, plus auxiliary forces, engineers, support staff. Each legion needed weapons, armor, food, fortifications, roads to march on, ships to transport them. Then there were the veterans, men who served 25 years and expected land grants, retirement bonuses, pensions. Add to this the cost of governing an empire, the massive bureaucracy of tax collectors, governors, judges, engineers building aqueducts, roads, bridges, temples, amphitheaters. Add the cost of keeping the population of Rome itself happy, the famous bread and circuses, free grain distributions, and public games that prevented riots. The math didn't work. It never worked. Revenue from taxes, tributes, and conquered territories covered maybe 70% of expenses on a good year. The remaining 30%, that gap would eventually swallow everything.
Enter Emperor Nero, the man who fiddled while Rome burned, though that's probably a myth. What's not a myth is how Nero spent money. In 64 CE, the Great Fire of Rome destroyed 2/3 of the city. Nero saw opportunity. He built the Domus Aurea, his golden house, a palace complex so vast and opulent that it covered 300 acres of prime Roman real estate. Gold leaf covered the walls. Rotating dining rooms mimicked the movement of celestial spheres. One room had an ivory ceiling that opened to shower dinner guests with flowers and perfume. The entrance hall featured a 120-foot-tall bronze statue of Nero himself. The cost? Ancient sources claim it bankrupted the treasury. Modern historians estimate the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions. Where did the money come from? Nero had a solution. He recalled all the silver denarii in circulation and reminted them with less silver, about 90% instead of 95%. Most citizens didn't notice. A 5% reduction seemed small, but it was the first crack, the first betrayal of trust between Rome and its people. Marcus the baker wouldn't have noticed in 64 CE. His coins still bought bread, still paid his workers, still held value, but the precedent was set. If the emperor could reduce silver content by 5% and get away with it, why not 10%? Why not 20%? The temptation was irresistible, and Rome's emperors had never been known for their self-control. By the time Commodus took power in 180 CE, the denarius contained about 75% silver. Commodus, the emperor who believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules, who fought as a gladiator in the Colosseum, who renamed Rome itself as Colonia Lucia Annia Commodonia, the colony of Commodus, had expensive tastes. He fought 735 gladiatorial bouts, not for honor, but for entertainment, for ego, for the roar of the crowd. Each appearance cost a fortune. He demanded appearance fees from the treasury. He slaughtered exotic animals imported at enormous expense. Ostriches, elephants, giraffes, all killed for spectacle while the empire's finances hemorrhaged. The military, meanwhile, demanded more and more money. The frontiers were under constant pressure. Germanic tribes pushed against the Rhine and Danube borders. The Parthian Empire in the east required expensive campaigns to contain. The legions knew their worth. They knew emperors needed them, so they demanded higher pay, larger bonuses, better retirement packages. Emperors who refused faced mutiny, assassination, civil war. Emperors who paid faced bankruptcy. Marcus the baker, now in his 40s, started noticing something wrong. The bread that once cost half a denarius now cost a full denarius. His suppliers charged more for grain. His workers demanded higher wages. Everyone complained about money, about prices, about the feeling that coins didn't stretch as far as they used to. Marcus opened his leather pouch one evening and looked at his 30 denarii. They were still there, still silver, still legal currency, but somehow they felt lighter, less substantial, as if they were slowly evaporating in his hands. By 215 CE, Emperor Caracalla reduced the denarius to 50% silver. Half the coin was now base metal, copper mixed with silver, a lie wrapped in imperial authority. Caracalla needed money for his military campaigns, for his building projects, for the massive pay raise he gave to the legions to secure their loyalty. So he debased the currency, melted down the old coins, mixed in cheap metal, and declared the new coins had the same value as the old ones. It was monetary alchemy, turning silver into copper and pretending nothing had changed. The markets knew better. Merchants started demanding 2 debased denarii for goods that once cost 1 pure silver denarius. Inflation, that ancient invisible thief, crept into every transaction, every paycheck, every savings pouch. Farmers sold their grain for higher prices. Landlords raised rents. Soldiers demanded bonuses in gold instead of silver. The entire economy began to shake as confidence evaporated.
Marcus the baker was 60 years old when he finally understood what was happening. His 30 denarii, his life savings, the coins his grandfather had earned with sweat and pride, could barely buy a month's worth of grain. His daughter's dowry, which should have secured her a good marriage, was laughable. His dream of buying farmland was dead. He went to the forum one morning, stood in the crowd, and listened to a tax collector announce new assessments. Taxes were doubling to fund another war, another campaign, another emperor's ambition. Marcus looked at the faces around him, saw the same exhausted despair, the same slow realization that something fundamental had broken. The provinces suffered even worse. Egypt, the breadbasket of the empire, groaned under taxation. Syria bled money to fund eastern campaigns. Gaul, Spain, and Britain sent their wealth to Rome and received debased coins in return. Local economies collapsed, trade routes sputtered. Cities that had thrived for generations started to hollow out as merchants fled, as farmers abandoned their land rather than pay impossible taxes. The empire was eating itself, consuming its own economic foundation to survive one more year, one more war, one more emperor. And here's the truly horrifying part. Everyone knew it was happening. Governors wrote desperate letters to Rome begging for relief. Senators debated the currency crisis in hushed tones. Historians like Cassius Dio documented the economic chaos, but no one could stop it because stopping it meant making impossible choices. It meant cutting military spending, which meant losing the frontiers. It meant ending public grain distributions, which meant riots in Rome. It meant telling the truth that the empire was bankrupt, that the dream was over, that the bill for centuries of conquest and glory had finally come due. By 250 CE, Marcus the baker was dead, but his grandson, also named Marcus, ran the shop. The younger Marcus held the same 30 denarii his great-grandfather had earned, but now they were worthless trinkets. The silver content had dropped to 20%. Bread cost 5 denarii, grain cost 10. Workers demanded payment in goods, not money, because coins were a joke, a cruel reminder of what Rome used to be. The younger Marcus stood in his shop one evening holding an ancient denarius from his great-grandfather's time, a coin of pure silver that gleamed in the lamplight, and he wept, not for himself, but for what had been lost, for the trust that would never return, for an empire that had committed financial suicide and taken its people down with it.